Yes, everybody. Russ, the West End Network. Hope you are all well. Thought I'd do. Yesterday, I was a bit too loud. I do apologise. I'm a bit more tranquil today. It's Thursday. A little bit more zen as the weekend is fastly approaching us. And obviously, we play Arsenal at the Emirates on Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff. We'll have our opposition chat tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to. And then we start, I believe today will be the Graham Potter press conference. So hopefully Anton can take that one on today. And yeah, a little bit more chilled out. Let me chilled out, Rusty B. If you're new around here, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, share, or hype if you've got any hypes left. Now, obviously, we had Monday, and Budgie and Kieran did the show yesterday about the new manager bounce. Have we finally had a new manager bounce? We haven't had one since David Moyes' first term, kinda. But anyway, regardless of that, there's a number, there's a number of decisions being made or need to be made by Nuno, pretty sharpish. We spoke about the backroom staff yesterday, and I wanted to talk about a bit about the playing staff. Holly did as part of Hammer's headline, spoke about James Ward-Prowse, and it got me thinking about the rest of the squad. In terms of, we seem to when a new manager comes in, they have their own views on some existing players want to bring in, that type of thing. We've had about 3 or 4 goes at this, and it seems we're going to have another merry-go-round of players potentially coming and going in January. And obviously, a number of those players going will help facilitate money in the kitty for us to go out and buy the players that Nuno wants. He's on a 3-year deal. And hopefully he fulfills that 3-year deal, because if he does, that means he's doing something right. So I've done my little, we've got here, safe, could be gone, out of here. So basically, as it alludes to, I'm going to go through the players, go through the squad, and see who's safe under Nuno, who could be gone under Nuno, and who is out of here. And I'm sure some of them you probably already assume already. But as I said, assumes makes an ass of you and me. Let's start goalies. Start with goalies. So for me, I think Areola is going to be the first choice. It's not saying you might not bring someone else in, but as we stand, Areola is very similar to the types of goalkeepers that he tends to work with. And obviously, he brings in Rui Barbosa, the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper coach, who has been his goalkeeper coach at Wolves, Al Ittihad, I think at Rio Ave as well, and maybe at Spurs, I can't remember. He works with lots of Cells, obviously. You've got Sarr at Wolves, so very similar types of player to Areola, shot stoppers, athletic, that type of thing. Alongside him, I think Mr. Fabianski is safe as well. Let's just move these along a bit, otherwise we're not going to run out. Because I think quite a few players are going to be safe. I think Fabianski is a very good number 2 or number 3, or could possibly become a number 2. Current number 3, but I think he could be number 2, because I think Mads Hermansen could be the first one out of here. I won't do that for every out of here, I promise you. He's going to be, I think, one of the first major casualty, well, probably the second major casualty, if you call it a major casualty, but fallout from the transition from Nuno, or from Potter to Nuno, in that he was a Potter guy. And also not just that, but, not just Potter, but there was the Casper Friendly goalkeeper coach. Everyone else, Lindos, they all wanted him. Carl McCauley, they wanted him as their goalkeeper. And I think that, to me, suggests that he's out of here. And I mean, we paid 15 million quid, probably get that back, maybe a little bit more, maybe, if there's a decent side that needs him. That's how I think the goalkeeper situation works. We've also got the likes of Christian Heggie. We've got obviously Finn Herrick, Mason Terry out. We've got Tom Wooster. We've got Reese as well. We've got Lonnie Ewusu. So there's other goalkeepers in the academy. I'm just looking at the first teamers at the moment. Let's talk defenders. So the first one, safe, without a shadow of doubt, I'm going to have to overlap them, aren't I, is Magic. Let's move him across there. There we go. He's Magic. He is safe. No doubt about it. If he stays at West Ham for 18 months, I'll be impressed because I think he's already turning, the attention on him is quite clear. And there's a lot of chatter about how good he is and how good he can be because he's so young already. But for me, he's safe. He fits exactly how Nuno would want his fullbacks to play. Simples. I think in that same breath, you could probably put in Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Obviously, he hasn't played yet under Nuno, but again, you got to think the type of player he is. I wouldn't think there'd be he was obviously hammer of the year last year. I can't see there being a situation where he would leave at the moment under Nuno. Also, Max Kilman, he's safe, which again makes sense. I thought actually he had a decent game against Everton on Monday, and I think if you get that right, the right centre half next to him, there were reports of us being linked to Milinkovic for Nottingham Forest. I can't see one happening, to be honest. They'd be silly to get rid of him. He's a bloody good player. But I think if he's alongside more of a physical centre half, I think you'll see it. And I think actually, to be fair, his better games are probably again when he's playing alongside Mavropanos than someone like Todibo, for example. Speaking of Todibo, I think he is out of here. I don't think he suits the way Nuno wants his centre halves to play. There's question marks over maybe his personality, his character, and I think he still holds a lot of value in terms of his sell-on value. So obviously we paid about 30 million plus. Obviously we paid a bit more for the loan spell at the beginning. I think you could probably get 25, maybe 30 million pounds for him potentially from maybe he could go to Juventus because he was going to go to Juventus all the time. But that type of thing potentially, I think he'll be moved on. Let's talk Kyle Walker-Peters. That's the wrong one. I picked the wrong one up. Let's talk Kyle Walker-Peters. I think he's safe. Good squad player. Obviously he will be utilised. Particularly come AFCONs as well when Diouf and Wan-Bissaka are representing their countries. I think he's safe and a good, honest sort of Premier League person. Mavropanos, I think if an offer comes in, could be gone. I think he's actually arguably probably been, from a defensive perspective, our best centre half this season. But that's not really saying much. We conceded so many goals. There have been some lapses of concentration, but I think so too for the rest of the defence. I think there's a player there. I just can't see whether Nuno would rather just bring in someone that he wants to partner at Kilman. Kilman's safe, but his partner needs to be, I think, brought in. I think he will be brought in. With Ollie 𝗧𝗛𝗪, I think he's safe as well. Again, I think he'll be utilised quite a bit during the AFCONs, particularly with Diouf. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we look at bringing in another one. I suppose another set left back. I suppose we do have Igor. I've included Igor in this because he's a lone player. But I think he is. It might be something we look at. Depends how. I mean, obviously, he's got until sort of January really to prove that he's, he can deputise for Diouf when he's not when he obviously Diop's not there. For me, Diop is the first pick on that left hand side. But Ollie, he was on the bench as well, which was good to see. Nice to see. I think there's 3 or 4 academy players on the bench for the Everton game, so that bodes well. Let's move into midfield. Let's start with Tommy Souček. Now he's an interesting one. I think personally, if as much as I wouldn't want him to see him go, I think if a deal came in, he would go, or we would sell. He's the way I see him, he's probably be used as a squad player. You got to see the way the team was set up for the Everton game. That pretty much for me is how it's going to be set up, with the possibility of Mägässä and Fernandes as the 2. And there's no doubt he'll be looking into bringing his own people, another midfielder. No doubt there'll be some Portuguese. I'm just thinking Pedro Neves, for example. Ruben Neves, not Pedro Neves. Ruben Neves is someone who's always of interest to him, having worked with him at Wolves. Obviously, currently plying his trade in the Saudi Pro League. Maybe want to come back. I think he's probably been at there long enough so he doesn't have to pay the tax back. But I could see that being an area that he could potentially leave. Same too with Rodriguez. I could see him going as well. Let's move him a little bit there. I mean, the box is slightly smaller, probably. I think Rodriguez, again, if a deal comes in, he was close to leaving. I mean, he didn't get on the pitch on Monday. I think we've got a lot of younger, more mobile players who can play that position. It's not saying there isn't a role for him there, but I think you're probably likely to see a couple of those midfielders moved on. Let's talk Freddie. Freddie, my love. For me, he's safe. I thought it was quite telling how he came on rather than Guerrero Rodriguez or one of the others. He came on, and I thought he did really well. Obviously, he came on when we were losing. We ended up winning the game. All good. Let's talk Fernandes. I mean, I've got to put him to front. Fernandes is staying. There's no problem with that. He is Portuguese, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being captain under Nuno sometime. Maybe not this season, but maybe a couple of years' time potentially, if Nuno's still with us. In terms of his teammates who played, his starting teammate on Monday, Mägässä. We know he wanted Mägässä when he was at Nottingham Forest. So for me, safe. Who else we got here? Andy Irvine, again, I think he's one who could move if the right offer came in. You got to think we've got a lot of midfielders, and I think for me, Andy is not surplus to requirements, but I think not a starter at his age. He needs to be playing regular football. Obviously, the Wrexham deal fell through, but there might be an opportunity to go back there, or another Championship side might be coming for him, or even a Scottish Premier League side, particularly if he's getting into the Scottish national side regularly. One person who I think is definitely out of here is JWP. Holly spoke about it yesterday. It looks like Southampton might be calling, but they won't pay the money. They obviously will take a loss on JWP, but it might be loan of obligation or something like that, or loan obligation if they get promoted, that type of thing. Not looking particularly like it at the moment under Will still, but I think that's a fair reflection of how that's all working. Let's talk Paqueta. For me, Paqueta, it's a pretty simple one with Paqueta. Yeah, I think it's quite an easy one for Paqueta. I think he stays. I would like to see, hopefully we'll see a better performance. But obviously he gave the ball away quite a lot, didn't he? And I think he was trying almost too hard. And again, it's a bit like sort of, we just got to quell that enthusiasm. And not quell the enthusiasm, that's wrong. But, it's always trying to make that killer pass. And there was a lot of times where we sort of bounced off Everton and an Everton player, and then obviously Everton on the attack, and it's never easy. So, but there's no doubt we haven't got anyone really like him in the setup. Also safe. It's like also safe. It's like what's it called? Like Britain's Got Talent. Also safe and going through to the next round is going through to Hollywood stage is Ksenia Summerville. There's no, he again. Nuno wanted him when he was at Nottingham Forest, so he was going to be his replacement for Elanga. So again, simples. Also, I think who would be safe is Louis-Guilherme. There's a player there, and I think again it was telling that he came on, which was great to see. And I think the fact is he's Brazilian, so he talks Portuguese as well, and I think you could see some good things from Louis come through. Yeah, he's not the starter, but he's definitely on the finisher bench. Not subs bench. They're finishers now, aren't they? Woke nonsense. So I think he's actually going to have a decent season under Nuno. Also safe. I'm going to put George in. I think George is safe at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe go out on loan in January, just because you look at the type of players who are in front of him. Somerville, Bowen, Guilherme, and then George. That's no slight on George's, ability, but I think you've got better players ahead of him at the moment. Simple. Not saying, George won't flourish, but I just think obviously he came back from injury, decided not to go out on loan, which I think is good because obviously now he's in the manager's eyes. Whereas someone like Kalen, someone like Lewis, they're not in front of the manager now. So it's like they're in front of a different manager now. So it's a bit different now. But I think George is definitely, he's a unique player. Reminds me a lot of Grealish and dribbling as well. When dribbling comes on for Everton, he was on one side, Grealish on the other. They look very similar. And I think George is that type of player. And I think it'll be interesting to see, particularly come the cup competitions, how he's utilised. Obviously, we're only in one cup competition now, but you know what I mean. Also safe, Jarrod Bowen. Simples. Jarrod Bowen safe. Is what it is. He's 8 or so, 9 or so from breaking Antonio's record. Should easily do that, I'd say, this season, which is a hell of an achievement because he would have done it about, I don't know, 150, 60 games maybe quicker than Mikel. Let's talk Füllkrug. I think I'm going to put Füllkrug in the could be gone. Now, the reason why I think he could be gone is I think, for me, there's a major upgrade we can bring in. And I'm sure there's someone like I've championed someone like Alexander Zorloff or someone like that who's a bit younger than Nicholas, and that makes a big difference. I think Zorloff's about 5 years younger than him. Tall, clinical, link up play, and I think the blueprint is that Chris Wood blueprint, or Raul Jimenez at Wolves. It's very similar roles were being played, and Füllkrug is playing that role and can play that role. But I think if we can get a younger model to come in, I could see that happening. Who else? I've got to put him to I haven't got enough space. I'm going to put Callum in the safe zone at the moment. He's a very different player to what typically Nuno wants in his strikers, but but for that reason he's different. So he could offer something different. He's a horrible player to defend against. I'd hate to be up against him. He's doesn't stop running, doesn't stop hassling. Obviously scored again for the under-21s in the Virtue Trophy in their crazy game with Reading. But yeah. And then you've got Callum Wilson. Do you know what? I'm going to put Callum Wilson there. You know, actually, no. Let's be. I don't know. See, I don't know. No, I don't know what Nuno's going to do. Don't know Nuno. I think. I mean, he offers again something different. He didn't. The only reason why I think not necessarily could be gone when we were chasing the game. He didn't come on. Am I right in thinking that? I think so. I think so. I think I've just made a revelation. I think he didn't come on. Let me just quickly check. I'm 99% sure he didn't come on because we were saying let's get Callum Wilson on. Should have probably checked this beforehand, but yeah, fuck it. Monday, I don't want Champions League because when you're chasing a game, you're trying to bring players on. Callum Wilson, you'd want to bring on because he's a goal scorer. No, he didn't come on. I thought he didn't come on. 𝗪𝗡𝗡𝗪 came on. 𝗪𝗡𝗡 came off for. I mean, he played the full 94 minutes. Andy Irving. So again, you're chasing the game, and you've got Callum Wilson on the bench. You don't bring him on, and you take off 𝗪𝗡𝗪. Now I know he was going for maybe a slightly different, more defensive towards the end, maybe, but we were chasing the game, and we didn't bring on Callum Wilson. We didn't bring on Callum Marshall either, but I think there's more mileage in Marshall than there is in Wilson. So that's what's suggesting that maybe he wouldn't feature in his plans. And again, maybe bringing in someone who's a slight different striker. So, I'd love to bring in maybe an upgrade on 𝗪𝗪𝗪, an upgrade on Callum Wilson potentially. But yeah. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think it's a fair assessment? I think it's quite a fair assessment, personally. That's why I'm doing it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Any really harsh ones? Any ones you think, no, that one's got to go, that one's got to go there, because everyone's opinion is different. And you're all entitled to yours as well. Let me know in the comments below. As I said, if you're new around here, please subscribe. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers. Mental. And if you want to give it a little like, that really helps. But not just our channel, any West Ham channel out there. You don't realize how much a little like or a little nice comment or even an emoji, that helps with the engagement. But obviously knows that you have interacted with that particular video. It all helps us a lot, and we've got some cracking 𝗪𝗡𝗪𝗔 11 interviews coming up with ex-players as well. I'm just trying to confirm a date, trying to get a couple done over the international break as well to keep you ticking over. Obviously after the Arsenal game, it's international break, isn't it? Fucking hell. Couldn't come at a worse time. But until next time, my friends, take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay hyped. If you still got a hype left, give us a hype, and I'll see you later on. Laters potatoes.